Schools create the environment for their students based on the philosophical underpinnings and the socio-cultural influences that encompass the community within the school. The philosophical underpinnings that can alter the effect it has upon its students relates back to their overall goal of education, the role of the teacher, the nature of the student, the curriculum emphasis, and the teaching methodologies used within the classroom. The socio-cultural influences can make a huge difference in the student's outcome from a particular school because it has been understood that students are influenced by a variety of different people and contexts they are exposed to. These influences include the classroom context, the school context, the bodies of authority that govern what can and can't occur within a school. Upper Macrovat State School is a small public primary school that I attended. However, when looking at the philosophical underpinnings and socio-cultural influences, some major differences occur when also looking at the model of education understanding by design framework, or commonly known as UBD framework. Upper Macrovat State School is a small public primary school located along Logan Road and has been open since 1929. Because it has been open for numerous decades, it is influencing the philosophical underpinnings and the overall running of the school. This school views the nature of the student as empty vessels waiting for teachers to fill them up with knowledge, and that its process is repeated every year, meaning the teachers treat the students as being completely unknowledgeable when they first walk into the classroom every year. This ideology the school has towards the students is opposite of what we have been taught from the Bible. In 1 Corinthians 6:19-20, we learn that we aren't empty vessels, so to speak, we are a temple of the Holy Spirit. The UBD framework views its students as vastly different beings. This framework views the students as being central to everything they do and essentially just the driving force for what they do. This model of education has designed a whole framework to ensure that the level of understanding students have is deeper and can be associated to other aspects in one's life. Upper Macrovat has only two main goals of education, and that is academic success and emotional intelligence. The school understands emotional intelligences as making everybody in the school who is associated with the school happy, and therefore will make the overall achievement from the students higher. This seemed to cause some problems within the classroom as the process in which you go through to understand a certain topic is being seen as being irrelevant and putting a huge emphasis upon the final destination. This was meaning that some students, including myself, started developing gaps in our knowledge which hindered our learning experiences later on in our life. On the other hand, when looking at the UBD framework, the goal of education is supporting the process in which the students learn. It does this by continually improving itself to support student achievement, meeting the needs of all the students, and ensuring that what they are teaching has an intellectual impact on all the students. This framework has an alignment with the biblical view seen in Psalm 139:14. We are all fearfully and wonderfully made. This framework supports the idea that we are all different and we all have unique traits God has so graciously given us. The mentality Upper Macrovat has associated with the goal of education also influences what the role of the teacher is within the classroom. The main role the teacher has is to provide knowledge to the students and to ensure the students are in an environment that promotes one of a family orientated. This role the teachers are asked to play resembles one that is being identified in Isaiah 64:8. We are the clay, you are the potter, we are all the work of your hand. This passage also relates back to the way in which the teachers see the students. This passage relates to the teacher's role as it is basically outlining what the school thinks its teachers should be doing. It also relates back to the way in which the teachers see the students in the sense that teachers are acting like God, in the sense that students are the clay that are being molded by the teacher, who are the potters, and they are being molded into knowledgeable beings instead of empty vessels. The UBD framework has a somewhat different view on what the role of a teacher plays in the classroom. UBD sees the role of the teacher as a coach figure instead of a traditional facilitator. This means that instead of what the teachers at my school were doing by filling the students with knowledge, the teachers associated with the UBD framework acknowledge that students play a massive role in their own learning just as much as teachers do. Therefore, the teachers with this framework are there to support and ensure that learning is occurring and to provide assistance when it's not. As mentioned before, Upper Macrovat is a public school. Therefore, the curricular emphasis they implement within the school has to be one that is set by the government. While I was attending the school, this meant that the Queensland curriculum was being used in conjunction with the C2C curriculum. Conversely, the UBD framework bases its curricular emphasis around a 3-stage program they call the 3 stages of backward design. These 3 stages are used in the planning stages of lessons to ensure that their goals of education is met. This framework puts a huge emphasis on this program for the reason being that they have the understanding that when teachers plan lessons, they can easily lose sight of what the desired outcome is for the students and thus relying on mediocre resources to reach those outcomes, much like what was happening at my school. This framework ensures that the desired outcomes are the first thing that is established or identified. Then the establishment of what the evidence of learning is going to look like, and the final stage is to then plan the lessons and making it easier for clear links to occur to the final outcome. The above philosophical underpinnings all have contributed to the overall teaching methodologies that were being conducted within the classroom. One of the teachers I had, there was no clear teaching approaches. The only way the teacher knew if the student had understood what they were being taught was in the form of a formative assessment, and by this time it was far too late for any misunderstandings to be fixed. If the result of that formative assessment proved that the student didn't understand what was happening, the student would then have to continually revisit that piece of assessment until they met the unseen expectations of that teacher. The UBD focuses its teaching methodologies around the use of learning activities and providing hands-on learning experiences for the students. It also provides the students with opportunities to be able to use their knowledge in new situations. Lastly, the teachers associated with this framework use the approach of continually providing the students with feedbacks on how they are doing, which is vastly different from the teaching methodologies found within my school. These philosophical underpinnings do play a massive role in the way in which a school functions, but the socio-cultural influences I mentioned previously also play a major part in the functionality of a school. The classroom context changed regularly depending on what was happening within the class at any time. For instance, the classroom layout at the very start of the year started out with the desks being divided into groups. Even though there was no group work being done within the class, it always started out in groups. However, if the class got too noisy consistently, the classroom layout would then be changed to have the desks separated into pairs and then separated into single desk rows if the behavior of the room was that unmanageable. The classroom context associated with the UBD framework will possibly change in consistency like the primary school I attended. However, it would be only changed to better suit the needs of the learning activities that were being conducted with the students or to better suit the needs of the students involved. The people that were in the room changed depending on the students that were in the class. Obviously, the teacher and the students made up the majority of who was in the room. However, on some occasions, a teacher aide would come in and help, but they would only help one particular student, and they would constantly be going back to that student. No specialist teachers would come into the room. However, if students did require learning support, they would then leave the classroom and spend a lesson with a specialist teacher. With the UBD framework, the people in the classroom would be the teacher, the students, and teacher aides working with a variety of different students that need some assistance. Also, depending on how big the students' numbers are within that class, it would also be a number of different teachers assisting those students. The bodies of authority that govern what is and isn't acceptable within the school is the principal, the government because it is a public school, and the P&C. The P&C make up a body of authority because the school is so small and consists of a couple of hundred students. The parents help to make the school a better environment and maintain a school community to better the lives of the students and the parents. The body of the authority with the UBD framework only consists of the teachers, as they are the ones who design and implement the program within the classroom, which could also be a possible weakness for the program as it could prove to show some biases along the track of time. Here you have been able to hear of 2 vastly different models of education that have been based around philosophical underpinnings and socio-cultural influences, and the possible damaging effects they have on students. A very important thought that has come out of this is that as a person, our philosophical underpinnings and our socio-cultural influences will affect every aspect of one's life and therefore shape our values and our beliefs and ultimately make us the person that we show to the world.